Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I'm joined by someone whose presence feels like a grounding force in the midst of so much collective change. Jen Marie Cliff is an intuitive healer, Reiki master, spiritual mentor, and former ICU and hospice nurse who now guides others through energy medicine, quantum healing, and feminine leadership. Her journey has taken her from the high-stress world of critical care into the expansive realms of ritual, consciousness, and healing, where science meets the sacred. She's also the founder of Sacred Mountain Institute, a visionary nonprofit devoted to creating sacred spaces for healing, spiritual awakening, and holistic education. Through research, ritual, intuitive development, and regenerative living, Sacred Mountain Institute is building a future rooted in sustainability, sovereignty, and spiritual empowerment. Their mission is to be a beacon of transformation, bringing people together to learn, grow, and reconnect with the earth and with themselves. In this conversation, Jen and I explore the brutal and beautiful path of motherhood and intuitive entrepreneurship, what quantum healing really is and how it can shift our awareness across time and space, the role fear plays in our personal and collective disempowerment, and how to reclaim our inner authority, the spiritual energy of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the portals that live in the land, why healing can be complex and profoundly simple. We also talk about the rising wave of feminine leadership and how honoring both science and mystery might just be the path forward. Let's begin. Thanks again for joining us on Goddess in Training podcast. I am here today with my friend Jen Marie. Gosh, I just met Jen formally a few weeks ago, and the thing that stood out to me about Jen is she organized this beautiful, beautiful women's circle, and it was the most well thought out, intentional, beautiful event that I have been to in a really long time. And then after that, I saw Jen has 2 little kids and is running a business and has so much going on. I'm like, how is this woman able to put together this beautiful, beautiful lunch? I mean, there was like plates on the table and flowers. And let me tell you, it was just the most beautiful thing ever. So thank you, Jen, for opening up that space to me and to others in the community and to just create a space where we can all be together. I think that we're all feeling that need for community right now really intensely. And so thank you. I would love to learn more about you and how you got into the healing space. I know you were in the ICU for a long time, right? So how are you now melding all of your life experiences into where you are right now?
That's a really good question. Well, what I'm learning is that a lot of the things that I do in my personal life actually interweave with my professional life, because what's perfect about this podcast is that my business delves into the divine feminine energy and really what does that represent? And to me, it's a lot of this mothering, this nurturing, and how I understand it from a professional standpoint. I utilize it in my personal life. And the motherhood journey, for me at least, has been so beautiful and brutal all at the same time. I'm sure you can completely understand that. And it's something that no one really can prepare you for. And I think the same thing with an entrepreneurial business, especially not just an entrepreneurial business, because it's not a common way to think about what a traditional business is. That's the whole point, right? We are veering off of a traditional path and we are becoming our own leaders. And then you have even the more niche part of entrepreneurship, which is holistic or intuitive business. So if anything, it's like I'm navigating at the same time the motherhood journey and learning what an intuitive business would be appropriate for right here, right now in this local area that tends to be a little bit more religious. And I'm saying that because religious perspectives don't seem to quite understand where we're coming from. It tends to be this conditioned of fear, this fear approach. And so how do I navigate a business where I try to educate individuals and also make it legitimate at the same time, also balancing it with my personal life? From learning the different lessons, it's all about bringing people in. It's not just trying to do it all yourself. I learned that the first few years of entrepreneurship. And I think the same thing with motherhood. Like we don't, right. Like we don't exactly live in a tribal culture, at least not yet, because we've been trained to be isolated. But what I'm gathering is at least surround yourself. It doesn't have to be with a ton of women, but the very few who you love and trust. And then they can be by your side whenever something challenging comes. And the same thing with the business side, like you bring people in who you love and trust, and they tend to be the same people, right? Because you're magnifying that out. A lot of the female entrepreneurs are mothers, and I feel really blessed to have those few who are going through the same thing. Because I have had a lot of single friends. They don't have kids. They don't understand it. And so they tend to kind of, it's a gross term, but slough off in your personal life because, they have other things going on and we're busy with our family and professional lives. To say how I'm balancing it all, it's just partnering with the right people, finding the right friends who you can hang out with the limited amount of time. And it's that structure. Like, okay, here's the month. Where can I do my business at the optimal times, where I have the energy at the optimal times? And where can I lead with my family and be with them fully present? Because that's still a challenge for me, is being fully present with my family while also trying not to think about business stuff at the same time, right? It's just because, when you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly motivated and you constantly want to create, especially from this like a feminine standpoint. You just want to keep creating and keep connecting with people. And to me, like, collaboration is essential with business, entrepreneur business. So I think it's just all of being mindful of what do I want to create in relationships and within business. And this whole divine feminine aspect is truly teaching me, I feel like, every single day to flow. Like, I'm getting here. I had to flow even against the small challenges. And you just kind of have to have humor with it when it becomes a little bit too much, and just pull in the people that you love and trust, and they'll be there for you.
I love that. Yeah. When I was in early motherhood, when my kids were little, I had no family nearby and, found some friends and moms groups and things. But it was never real heartfelt relationships, and it's like soul sisters. It was like, okay, well, let's exchange some babysitting time. And what you said about finding time to be really, truly present really resonated with me too, because I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, but I was working full time with no childcare, like trading childcare with other people. So I was going into the office, and when I wasn't in the office, I was taking care of other people's kids too, and then working from home. So it was the like, okay, nap time. I have hopefully an hour to sit down and get work done. And then, babies, they don't want to nap.
It never works out the way you want it.
And so there was no flow whatsoever. It was all just survival.
Yeah.
It's really, really survival. And part of what I want to do in the world, and it sounds like what you want to do too, is like, we want to thrive.
Yeah.
We really want to thrive. And so talk a little bit about how you help people in your coaching practice.
Okay. I mean, I personally don't consider myself a coach. It's more teacher and mentor and practitioner. So, I mean, I'm evolving, as I mentioned before, with my sessions, because I feel like I'm just coming back out of my hibernation stage. I've been taking about 2 years off from my own practice because, to be perfectly honest, like, this postpartum has been brutal. It must be like the hormones and, I'm in my early phase and just trying to bounce back from a mental, emotional, and physical standpoint. Like I'm still in that journey, and let alone spiritually.
Yeah.
So practice that I'm incorporating, there's some new aspects, some new tools. And one of them is the quantum codes. I'm having more understanding of the vibration. The quality of vibration is really essential to moving energy out of people's physical and energetic bodies. So I'm incorporating crystal bowls as well, along with the meditations that I did prior. I used to do a lot of shamanic journeying. I use intuitive messages as well if those clients are open to that. And most of the time, if they're coming to me, usually they are. And I will have to say, a lot of times when people come to me, it tends to be at a more desperate state because all other answers were not there. Right. And, and I'm fine with that. If you need to come to me for answers or approaches that maybe were not available for you and you need something different, absolutely. And so I come from a more scientific and spiritual perspective because to me, that is the present and the future of medicine. And medicine doesn't always have to be medical. Medicine, what I like to empower people, because that's the whole point, and specifically females, because I feel like I resonate way more of their journey, of course, than with men. But I'm open to anyone who wants to be available with what I come from. But medicine to me is you have everything. I'm just helping you remember what your own medicine means, what your own power means, what your own light and your own divinity means within you. That's all I am. I'm just an activator and a guide for the individual and to let them know like you are your own healer. I'm just more of like a conduit. I'm more of a model of like, this is what I believe medicine is, but also like take my approach, but also remember that you have your own ways of what medicine means to you. So I'm not just a, this is how it is. Anyone who says like, this is how it is, you should have there's a red flag.
Right.
So I have that energy healing. I have like some of the tools like the quantum drops and the sound bowls, but I've also would like to incorporate past life regression. I'm currently getting certified in QHHT, stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique by Dolores Cannon. Have you ever heard of it before?
I haven't. It sounds fascinating.
So her life, just I feel like a lot of healers, she did not expect to do hypnosis technique or hypnosis therapy. She was trained traditional in hypnosis therapy, and she just threw the techniques out of the window. She's like, this is bullshit. Like there's easier ways that I can reach clients besides just the traditional ways that seem like it would take hours and hours. Like where is the shortcut where people don't have to be here with me for hours and for many times? Could there be sessions where it would only have to take once? So she happened upon, over the many years of testing out this QHHT, and she's realizing she started tapping into the higher self. And so she has structured it in a way where past life of the individual was starting to narrate in the hypnosis session. Okay. So she, over thousands of sessions, she refined this technique, and now people from all over the world are getting certified with it. She passed in 2014. Her daughter, I believe Julia, has taken over it and continued and honored this way of certification, this technique. And not many people here in this area are certified in it. Just very few, probably a handful or less. So the way how it's structured is, you get into a deep hypnosis as the practitioner. I'm just here. I'm just a guide. I make sure that everything is set and the client is comfortable.
Yeah.
And the whole time the client, let's say if you're the client, you're narrating. You are telling me everything. And I am just the person who sends all the questions. You become, as the practitioner, a master of questions. So it's like a podcast.
So are you speaking the questions out loud?
Yeah, and then the person is narrating out loud the whole time. And if you get the client into such a deep hypnosis where they actually step into that lifetime, forgetting at the moment in time who they are in the present, if you ask the right questions, like you will understand the time period that they're in. Premise of QHHT is the past life, because we have many, right? Some
Right.
are thousands, some are hundreds, depending on how old you are as a soul. The premise is that there's a reason why your higher self is picking this 1 to up to 3 past lives within the session. There's themes in that past life that need to be resolved in this present life. And then after narrating for about an hour of the 1 to 3 past lives, then you go right into what I think is the most interesting part, is talking directly to that person's higher self. And it's amazing because higher self isn't consistent in the person. It's all about who the person is translating that higher self.
Right.
And so some higher selves swear.
Okay.
Others don't. Others are just more peaceful and flowy. Others are just more like, this is my higher self. It just depends on the person. And I just find it fascinating. And you, as a client, you come before the session even starts. You have some have 0 questions because they didn't know how to ask, and others have up to 20 questions. What are the questions you've always wanted to know about yourself, about the universe? And then I ask them that. And then they, without hesitation, the higher self, if the higher self wants to answer, they answer.
So they come with the questions. If they come with no questions, do you then use your own intuition and your own higher self to ask questions?
I actually encourage them. Give me a handful of questions that you've ever wanted to know. I encourage them, like, let's say in childhood, if something happened, let's say an ET experience, they've always wanted to know, I feel like I've been abducted, or I've had this really weird situation and I never knew what happened. And because a lot of times when I ask those questions, like, I completely forgot about that situation. Thank you for bringing that up. Those are the situations where, like, your higher self can answer and no one else can. So why not bring those topics up?
That is fascinating. I'm excited to learn more about this. So how did you come across this? And actually, my question is more about quantum. I don't even know how to say it. Like, tell me more about quantum. Is it energy fields? Is it when you say the word quantum, what does that actually mean?
So when I think about the quantum, I think about this open field of space where there's actually no time. It is something where some people might use the term ether, because I also kind of interchange that as well. And so here in this quantum realm, where you have access to all of consciousness, universal consciousness, where you have access to not only your higher self, but all of the answers in which you have collected information over many lifetimes. Because some people actually, I've had sessions where it's a parallel current life, which is mind-blowing, or it's actually a life that's in the future. If you are in the premise or in the school of thought that time is all happening at the same time. So your past lives are actually happening right now as your present life
Right.
along with your future life. And then what makes it even more complex, you have timelines of your present life happening at the same time. So when you think about the quantum realm, it is filled with an abundance of information. Some people also use the word Akashic records. There are, information within that field. So to me, it's a plethora of information, of experience. Some people just experience the quantum realm as just darkness, silence, because maybe that's where some people just need to be during, let's say, a QHHT session. They just need the silence because maybe in their current life, there's just so much noise. And so that silence is also healing. So the QHHT, from what I have found, is that it grabs the patterns, the lessons for the individual, and it creates this almost healing session for them that they didn't realize it's actually healing. I mean, that's part of the title. But the whole point of it is like bringing up things that maybe they weren't expected to happen, bringing up patterns and lessons that they didn't realize connect to each other. Like, why would something from a past life really bring up something deep and profound in the present? And it happened all the time. And it also, because it's coming from the individual, they're narrating it, it helps them realize, I'm saying this out loud from a past life and also from higher self. Like, they accept more of the challenges that they've gone through. It gives them more of an objective perspective, whereas typically as human beings in our ego, we would take it so personally and we would fight against it. So that's what I have also found that's so profound. It helps them accept a lot of certain circumstances, and they see it from such a way of like, oh, that was part of the human experience that I actually signed up for. And that also is healing. A lot of times when you accept that, that lesson goes away because you're like, oh, okay, I passed that course, or I passed that level. Time to move on.
Right. Just by looking at it. The quantum realm sounds very similar and probably the same thing to what I've experienced using plant medicine and psilocybin journeys, like how I've described being drawn into the stream of consciousness, the everything, and where I can ask questions and I'm given answers. And so it sounds really similar, but it's not facilitated by plant medicine. So that's really neat. And it's neat that people can verbally out loud, because I can see that bringing it into this world in that way by speaking what they're experiencing out loud helps you embody it rather than like it's just in this other realm. Because even when you do plant medicine, it's like, okay, well, that happened here. It almost feels like in this other space. And it takes time, and that's what people talk about integration, like bringing those things here into this realm can be challenging, and some people don't do it ever. But if you're actually speaking the words as the words are coming to you while you're in that space, it's there already. And I guess it's easier to have that integration into what's happening in your life right now.
Yeah. And all these sessions are recorded audio wise. So then they can listen to it again. And sometimes that's even more powerful because they're like kind of re-experiencing that whole session. And so a lot of times it's a couple of hours of deep shadow work from what I gather. Because, for me, plant medicine is also a different type of approach to your own shadow work, right? It kind of opens you up. It opens up the gateway. The same thing with QHHT. It's just another gateway of tapping into deeper understanding of your own human experiences from multiple levels, multiple lives. And I think that's the whole point why us humans try to find different modalities to figure out, okay, how can I understand this whole human experience? Because sometimes it just seems so mundane and you're like, why am I here?
Right.
What's the whole point of this? And so when you go on certain journeys like QHHT or, psilocybin, plant medicine in general, like they give you the reasons without holding back, right? It's there. It's truth. It represents truth.
Yeah, I found though, and I've seen this in myself and other people too, once those doors are kind of open to you, it's hard to then have long periods of time where you're not getting additional downloads. Where you're kind of like sitting around like, well, I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, but what's next? And I can see how it can become kind of addictive. And so it was interesting that you said that this modality, its intention is to be kind of like a once and done. So
Usually.
Yeah, or it can be. But I can imagine that people, they're getting answers and then they're like, well, I want more. Can you give me more? Give me more.
Yeah.
How are they going back and for more sessions? Or are they learning how to, so this is part of my experience with plant medicine, is that I don't need the plant medicine. I can kind of access that realm whenever I want. And that is what I believe to be just kind of at a base level, deep intuitive knowing. I'm just in touch with my intuition all the time. It seems like this might be able to do the same thing, kind of teach people how to access that space whenever they want. Do you think that's true?
So far, because I'm not certified and they're just free practice sessions for me, I do get emails, people wanting to come back, which is totally understandable because it's not a typical session like Reiki now is more common. So I am open for that. And I think it just depends on the individual and what story comes out. Because what I will say about Dolores Cannon, she has written about 20 something books, and majority of it is through these techniques.
Ah,
And a lot of times it would be, let's say, if you ever heard of Jesus and the Essenes, it's a fascinating book. I'm not even done yet. But you imagine, I think she did this, maybe it was in the 80s, a 20-something-year-old blonde girl who came from a very religious background. And she was curious about this whole approach, QHHT. I don't even know if she actually titled it at that moment in time. But this woman went in such a deep hypnosis that she became this male back in the time of Jesus.
wow.
And so Essenes is, call it a secret society, an
Uh-huh.
ancient society that I believe their relatives were from Atlantean times,
Okay.
even more ancient than before because they carried this ancient information and through their culture. And it was also tribal as well. They had technology that really wasn't common outside of their particular community.
Mm.
So this woman came back over and over again, probably for at least a year. And so they recorded her saying all of the experiences that this particular man had, especially the interactions with Jesus. What Dolores did was not only did she record and then transcribe over a typewriter, but she
Yeah.
also, after each session, she would historically find what this woman was talking about
So
to
actually dig in.
verify. To
Mhm.
verify, is
This was
this
before the internet too, so
right?
it must have been very time intensive.
Right. And I think that's why Dolores Cannon was so respected in this, what I would think, unusual realm, is because she fact checked a lot of the things that, especially if she was able to fact check, right,
Yeah.
from a historical basis. She also did a lot of extraterrestrial
Mm.
past life regressions with individuals that she did not expect to have. If you look up Convoluted Universe, is a series. I think it's at least a 5-part series, really big books. And that is information translated from our star family.
Mm.
So she went from past life to also star family information. And it was up to the point where even government, and she documented this, government officials were coming into the QHHT sessions back in the day where she had multiple people in the same room besides just a one-on-one session. I think eventually it became more one-on-one session. But she used to do this when she used to travel and do expos and do talks. She would also have sessions. So she was a very busy woman where she traveled everywhere,
Wow.
drove around everywhere. She would drive hours away to have sessions because she would only do that with particular people because they told stories that were fascinating. And she wrote books about that.
It's really fascinating. I want to go and dig in and
Yeah.
learn more about this. Yeah. And just the storytelling aspect of it too. The fact that she wrote everything down. Yeah, I would love to see these stories that people were channeling. That's what the word that was coming. It's
Yeah.
almost like channeling.
Yeah.
Have you gotten into like any of the science behind any of this?
Not really. And that's actually part of what I would like to do with Sacred Mountain Institute. We actually just started the idea of how do we start research at a simple, affordable level. And I literally just talked with one of the practitioners here who I share office space with. We literally just started talking about this before I met you. It's like, okay, how can we start to legitimize what we are doing here through science, through also utilizing simple, affordable instruments and see what kind of modalities can we prove that is working. Like if anyone knows anything about Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's been doing this for probably 20, 30 years through the modality of meditation and how that's changing the brain waves, but also it's encouraging people's full body to actually heal. So
Mm.
we are just at the beginning stage of trying to figure out, okay, what research do we want to do here in the local community to be able to back up some of the things that we're interested in doing. So just at the infancy space right now.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the whole point why we're also called Sacred Mountain Institute. It's that whole balance between the feminine and the masculine, the scientific part, and then also the spiritual components. Because again, we believe that this is actual medicine
Hmm.
and not invasive
Right.
medicine. What are the ways that we can honor what our ancestors have been telling us the whole time? How can we prove, just like what Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and Gregg Braden, all these pioneers have done is meshing in that science and spirituality. And so we want to be a part of that history as well, but we've got to start at the foundational level and start making partnerships with local, let's say, universities and other businesses where they want to be a part of it as well. So you'll probably start seeing this year that we're going to start putting out some research and people who want to volunteer and be a part of it.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, we live in a pretty religious Christian town, and I'm just blown away by, yes, that exists, but there's so many people who are in this world who are open to questioning reality. And I lived in Northern Virginia for 20 years, and
Mm.
that it existed somewhat there, but not like here. I mean, I just have met so many people, so many women especially, who, like you, are deep in this research and in living the life and constantly improving ourselves. The healing journey is a spiral, and I feel like through every conversation I have, every interaction, I become a little bit more
Mhm.
healed. And there's a palpable feeling, I think, here in this area. And do you have any idea of why that might be? I've thought about,
Mhm.
well, maybe because it is so religious that people are kind of questioning that after living a life in kind of really conservative ways. I wonder if the mountains have something to do with it.
Mhm.
That the space really feels sacred in some way.
Yeah, so I think it's a couple layered answer. One, you're living in a place, Salem, connected to the Salem trials. I think that has to do with it. The mountains to me has a lot of this ancient dragon energy, and last year was the dragon year, and it's like rebirthing, reawakening the energy that is always meant to reawaken. And to me, I always feel like this connection to, I believe our part of Appalachia is connected to either it's Africa, the same mountain range, or Scotland, because when the earth kind of reshaped itself, we share mountains with one of those mountain ranges, and I'd have to look back and see. Yeah, so
Huh.
our mountains are one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. It doesn't seem like it because it doesn't seem as nearly as high
Right.
as like Mount Everest, but you think about it, like these mountains are so old that they're kind of worn down. And if they've moved, of course, then it would also be worn down as well. But we have property here in the mountains, and I can tell you, I've taken pictures with my children. One in particular, when we first bought the property, and my oldest, Liam, he was probably about 3 years old. My husband took the photo, and when he shared it to me, I'm like, and then I would zoom in and out. I'm like, do you not see? There are literally fairies. There's literally fairies here on this tree. There's like a couple of portals and literally beings looking through that portal. I'm like, this particular side of the mountain, like I could feel it. It feels not only familiar, but it also feels very enchanted. And maybe that's
Mm.
also why it feels familiar, because this whole enchantment, this whole magic, the dragon energy all around us is calling souls back home.
Mm.
And this almost feels like it's meant to be like a mecca where people will come from all over the world to understand that these mountains have a lot of magic and power, healing power in particular. Because, what we have done for so many years is looking at screens or being so much detached from nature that nature is now calling us back
Mm-hmm.
home. Like Pachamama, Gaia,
Mm-hmm.
Mama is calling us and say, healing doesn't have to be complex. Like you just like literally hug a tree, which I know some people roll their eyes, but there is something to be said in the research that grounding itself, attaching us back home to the earth, that alone has its science back implications that grounding can decrease stress, decrease anxiety, decrease inflammation. And it does wonders for ourselves. So I think that's why people who didn't grow up, they look at it from an objective standpoint. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
there's something magical about here. But I feel like if you grew up here, especially if you've grown up here with a religious background, religious conditioning, you almost are like blinded by the fact that there's magic here, unless you start to kind of look beyond the physical reality and actually start to open up yourself and question, there is something special about this place. And I've met a lot of people who are in this community who are religious. They are starting to question a little bit about what they grew up with. And there's nothing wrong with religion. It's just how it's approached. Like there are approaches in spirituality that I also question as well. And so it's almost like getting back to yourself and understanding like what is so powerful about these mountains. And to me, I think it has a lot to do with coming home and also releasing a lot of the pain, like how Salem is releasing a lot of the pain from a religious and spiritual aspect. And I think we as individuals are meant to kind of forward this whole healing process.
Yeah, definitely. My story of moving here, I didn't really know why. And
Yeah, right?
when I got here and met so many other people who were kind of like, yeah, I don't know why I'm here, but we're all just organically brought together in this way that really is magic. And I'm building this resort in Costa Rica, and that also has the same kind of feeling. Those mountains are really, really spiritually infused in a way that's even more palpable because it's so isolated. Here, we have all of the different frequencies of cars and electricity lines and airplanes, and there it's like nothing. So you step into it and you can just feel it immediately. And going into the waterfalls there too, the water is just so incredibly healing the second you go into it. But I think you're right. And whenever I talk about Costa Rica, people are like, I've always wanted to go, or I've been there and I need to go back. It's like it's another place that that has that kind of drawing power in this moment that we're in right now. And I've heard a lot of people who are drawn to the Colorado area too, in a way that those
Yeah,
there.
mountains, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's so fascinating. And I would love to learn more about how different places on Earth match up with the chakras and the human body in a way that, and there are different power centers. I think Egypt is one of them, and, England, where Stonehenge is another one. And they kind of feed into that ancient geometry. Again, I need to learn more about this because I can't speak very eloquently about it, but it's all things that are just so fascinating to me. And going back to what you said about healing can be really simple. I love that paradox of, the beginning of our conversation was about this like really heady, like quantum, using these big scientific words and talking about the science behind it. But in reality, it can be really simple. It can be very complex. It can be very simple. And I think different things resonate with different people. And that maybe by taking our logical brains through this exercise of science and the scientific method, we actually kind of end up back home in this place where it is very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about, at least from what I understand, a lot of the ancient languages or even the current tribal languages of what was passed down, it's not complex terminology, right?
Mhm.
But there are these ideas, even the imagery or even the stories that were passed down of, you can call it magic, you can call it healing, you can call it energy. It wasn't that complex. I feel like it's the scientific community that is rather new. It's almost like they need the verification from a physical level from their approach to make it feel like it's real, when this whole time has been real. It has been present, maybe dimmed down and not practiced as much or not accepted, but it's been here all along. And I think just being able to accept the fact that we're constantly surrounded by it, do certain things kind of diminish the power of it? Yes, I feel like our electrical lines, right? The big electrical grids. Yes, that can definitely increase the illness and diseases if you live right near it. Yes, that will diminish the idea of being able to self-heal. And the more you're closer to nature without all of that interruption, then yes, it's also, you could feel it as a sensitive person. You're like, I'd rather be more in the woods. The more sensitive that you become, the more reclusive that people I see tend to be. And ironically, they're the individuals that actually are meant to stand out and help and be a part of the community. You just have to learn how to clear the vibes that are not meant to be there, learn to reground, and also protect yourself as well. Again, it's what we've talked about this whole time. It's a balancing act, because if we're going to live in the modern world, also understanding the ancient practices that have always worked. Otherwise, if it didn't actually work, why are we still talking about it?
Right.
Why is it still here? And to go back to the whole aspect of, why are certain mountain ranges so powerful and so drawing? So in the women's circle, I mentioned just very shortly, Serpent Mound, which is an ancient site in Ohio, and I've been there twice, and it's a mound. It's not very big, but why would a mound capture so much power? The mound, the serpent of it has at the tail end, like the spiral, that sacred spiral that we see in so many different ancient cultures. And then you look at it, it's actually meant to have the chakra system as well. And it's purposely meant to, I believe it's the sunrise at summer solstice, to perfectly align at the very head. I'm not a crazy expert on it, but I can tell you from being there at summer solstice, not pregnant and pregnant, and also within, I think, even, was it a 3-year span in time, how people have come there to help heal it. Because the energy of it was broken for the longest time. It was messed with. And I think because a lot of people would dig in the mound for ancient artifacts. And so that also, the sacredness was broken.
Yeah.
But when I came back there the second time, also pregnant, the power of it was so palpable. I actually had to walk around, and it's not because I was just pregnant, but I had to walk around with my friends to help keep me grounded. And from an average person, it just looks like just a mount. It's nothing special. But if you look past that physical plane and you really open yourself up to the history, because I remember at the end of my walk the first time, there was this gust of wind, and I was all by myself, and I had this simple download, and the serpent said, you were here. You were one of the originals that helped create this mound. And to this day, I'm like, it has given me goosebumps. Like, you've always been attached to this area. That's why you're drawn to this place. And so I think people who go back and walk there, they understand that they have some type of history with it as well. So something about the formation of mountains, the formation of mounds, it's something that we've done since the beginning of time. There's something to mountains that create this powerful energy. And maybe it's because we ourselves are the mountain. There's something that there's secrets in the mountain. Like sometimes when I go on journeys and I'm digging out information for myself, a lot of times it's in a cave with a bunch of scrolls. Everyone has different experience of what their own records look like. But to me, many times it's in a cave. because it's protected, it's cooler, and then you kind of shine the light within the cave, and the cave seems endless amounts of information. So I think there's metaphorically, there's reasons why we seems to be so drawn to the physical aspects of it.
I love that you're wearing serpent earrings
I know,
today,
right?
too. I feel like time is collapsing and information is collapsing in this moment that we're in right now. And when you talk about the serpent and the chakras and the serpent mound, it is also connected to the double helix of DNA. And I just laugh so much at the scientific community that is perfectly okay accepting the double helix as complete fact. But yet these other things like chakras and energy are like harder to digest and harder to accept as fact. It's like the double helix is really difficult to kind of wrap your head around as something that is true. But yeah, just the way that there's this superiority around scientific fact, I think has really limited us. And I think we're in a time now where people are starting to expand their understanding of what science is and how science really is not that different than energy.
Yeah. I think science is just another lens of looking at the world and trying to understand it, because from friends who are in the scientific community who are actually open and ethical about that approach, is that science is all about questioning.
Right.
Right. And sometimes, sometimes the questioning stops, right? Just like anywhere else in any sector. Like what I find in talking with friends who are also religious, when you ask the questions, they start to get, and this is not everyone, certain people start to get defensive because they don't have the answers. And that's okay to not have the answers, whether if it's in the scientific community, in the religious community, it's all about saying, I don't know. And I think that's what's so kind of mysterious and interesting about understanding how to download information, is that you can get that information. It might not be from a scientific perspective, but there is learning through that. And I think that's why it's understanding your own spiritual journey. You understand that, I honestly do, is that you have all the answers. May not be the answer that some people like or translate it in a way that people don't understand, but it's there. It's absolutely there.
I was reminded that my ex-husband, when I first met him, I grew up Methodist, and he also grew up Methodist, but a very different version of Methodism than my family practiced. And I was a religion major in college, and so many conversations that I had just really triggered my mother-in-law in particular. And I distinctly remember her crying while we were talking about Harry Potter, and she thought Harry Potter was evil. And
Good.
I said, well, Jesus was called the Magi, and that's magic. And she ran upstairs crying. And,
my goodness.
And she said frequently, like, too much knowledge is bad. And, we were in college at the time, and I'm like, why are you paying for your son to go to college?
Because that's all about knowledge, right? Going to university, going to college. That's the whole point. You're taking the next level up.
Yeah, and she's evolved as time has gone on from that space that she was in, and now Harry Potter's okay. But I think that at the root of so much of this, it's fear around the unknown. It's fear about not knowing. And I think it's when you shed that ego and shed fear that you can really open up to all of the different possibilities that there are in this world. And that's when you can really heal and learn. What role does fear play in your life?
Well, the thing about fear is that the more you fear, the more you become manipulated, the more you become under someone else's control. That's how I've understood what fear is. And we can't always escape fear, right? Because, there's a lot of things that you don't fully understand. And then I think from what I'm learning is that when you're on a spiritual journey and really understanding yourself, not knowing becomes part of your spiritual journey. Having full faith within yourself and within the people that you love and within the guides that are beyond this physical realm, going with that flow, listening to your intuition is part of the fun synchronicities, because that's when people say you have a lot of luck. It's because part of that person, whether if they believe in intuition or not, is because they're following that guidance, following that inner voice of the self or the divine voices that are leading them, navigating throughout life. So the more that you follow that, the less fear that there is, at least from my journey, from my experiences. But it pops up every once in a while. A lot of the times it's like, I don't want my kids to be hurt. I don't want my husband to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. Usually it's that fear, and it lasts for 2 seconds, and then the rest all about like centering yourself, staying calm. It's about practicing that self-care, that whatever I need at that moment, but it doesn't control me. And that's what I have to tell myself, because I have people in my life where fear constantly controls them, and I don't think they realize that that's the whole point. We are conditioned to constantly fear, no matter what angle of life that you're playing at. So if you understand that it's put in there in place to disempower you, then you're like, how can I backtrack and get my own power back? Because that's part of what my practice is too, is come from a place of your own power. Sometimes that means you have to clear out relationships. Sometimes it's items. Like, what are the things that's triggering that fear? Understanding how it plays in your life is going to give you so much more light in your life.
Yeah, I'm constantly thinking about the world that we're living in right now is very heavy. If you pay attention to politics and war, and like we're living in this time that is very chaotic. And I think there's that paradox there too, that as people are seeing things kind of spin out of control, they're called even more to look inward and to not pay attention to everything that's going on out there, and that we're going to hit some kind of breaking point. And I'm excited. I'm here for it.
Well, you know, we've talked about the spiral several times. Like, we're in a vortex. So things are sloughing off. Things are being cleared out. Things have to come to the surface before it's fully released. That's how, in some ways, that's how I view what's going on the last several years, especially from at least living here in 2018. Things have kind of revved up to be a little bit chaotic. It's also awakening and putting us as practitioners or just holistic individuals who are more curious, we're able to see more of our community instead of it being hidden, right? So there's like this duality of negative and positivity of the world. And, you know, the fear aspect, what are you choosing to see is also what you're choosing to experience. So if all you're going to see is negative, all you're going to base your philosophy is on fear, that's what the universe is going to be like, okay, in an objective stance, if that's what you're seeing, if that's what you're thinking, then this is what we're going to keep giving you. Right? So unless you change your mindset and your heart set, you're going to keep literally going down the toilet of the vortex until you realize it needs to stop. So vortexes can be a positive experience or it can be a negative experience. And everything in which we are experiencing is just a mirror back into us from an energetic standpoint. So if you look at it, all of the major chakras, they're all vortexes. If you look at all the minor chakras, they're also vortexes. So what do we want to live? How do we want to experience the changes of our lives, which is, to me, the vortexes?
Yeah, and I think so much of my practice is also just giving people permission to turn away from those things. My daughter, I came home the other day and she was sobbing, looking at her TikTok, because all of a sudden the algorithm had turned into World War III TikTok. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I'm just seeing all these videos, and my boyfriend and my brother, they're going to get drafted. And she was going down this whole rabbit hole. I'm like, baby, that is there to control you, literally. And it is your job to completely turn away from that. Because if you turn into that, it's just going to grow. It's going to grow even more, and you're going to get sucked down into that vortex. But you can also push against it and get pulled up into the light as well.
Right, because that's propaganda to get us to believe that we're going to be in that realm of World War III Or we can even be the small percentage of human beings and say, I don't accept that reality for everybody. We're going to actually turn it into something more beautiful, more
Yep.
heartfelt. We're going to turn into more of this feminine leadership. And I don't just mean females. I mean, it's going to be more of a nurturing leadership,
Exactly.
a soft leadership that ties into strength, not weakness. So something that we as a species need so much, right? So I think we're constantly being tested, and unfortunately children who are vulnerable or just vulnerable populations are easy to prey on,
Yeah.
right? And so it's our jobs as parents to be like, okay, let's take a step back, and how can we raise our beautiful little people into strong beings, into a community that's always just constantly putting out the chaos and the fear? How can we build them up? Like, that's a constant learning curve for me as well. So yeah, social media has its strengths, and it has so much negativity, its weaknesses as well. Yeah, I commend you for just trying to navigate that with teen years, because I'm not there yet. I'm just at the toddler years.
If I had the ability to go back in time, I would just be like, no, we're not doing it. We're just not doing the social media. And there were reasons why I couldn't. My ex wrote it into our divorce documents, the agreement that, well, I'm buying the phone for them. And so I then control the phone. And so, that was something that I couldn't stop. But it just caused so much more break with bullying
Yeah.
and just the chaotic spiral, especially through middle school, watching my daughter. When I was in middle school, you could go home
Yeah.
and you had no idea what was going on with your friends for several hours a day at least. You could pick up the phone and see what was going on. But this was like 24/7. You knew everything that was going on with every single person in your entire school. And our brains can't even process all of that information, let alone, then the feelings that come along with it. And then people coming at you because you say one thing wrong and then you're stuck in the spiral. It's just, yeah, if I could go back, I would say no way, no Snapchat, and just be really mindful about how to teach young people about how to use social media.
Right. Because, social media is the metaphor for just too many voices, so much information, and you lose who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't want that. You want to remember who you are. And teenagers, even adults, they are still on a journey of what in the world is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you so much. And what's coming up for you? What are you excited for that's coming next?
So I'm just opening my office in downtown Roanoke, and I'm sharing it with 2 other women, the actual space itself, but the building that which you saw, it's open to the community and to have events. And I'm just really excited to do one-on-one mentoring and also teaching online. So that's basically what is coming up. Is I'm also building a phone app as well.
Oh.
That's a whole challenge in itself. But mainly right now we're focusing on events for women, also working up this whole research aspect. And then for me, just personally, it's just getting back into one-on-one sessions with individuals, which I've missed dearly, and just kind of taking it from there. It's just one of those unfolding processes.
Yes, it's always unfolding, always spiraling. And so thank you again. This has been so
much.
fun. Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I've followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapel, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de la selva.